people? I hope you are having a good day. You've got food, water, everything you need to get done. We are continuing amalgamation. Hello. Jumping the bullet.
Sorry.
No, you're good. Makes it easier. Let me make sure we got the things up, I believe. I haven't changed any of amalgamation except for getting rid of the annoying blood spatter mod because it's really freaking annoying because it changes all particles for some reason, or at least most of them. So it was only when we were talking. It was whenever mobs spawn because there's particles of that because of another mod I have, and it was very annoying when I was in Creative Worlds dealing with the Phantom because I just get constant blood spatters because of my character being Phantom, even though I'm in Creative. Even though nothing's happening, I get blood spatter because I'm not dying because I'm in creative mode, but I'm not in phantom mode because I'm in creative mode. Anyway, it's annoying. So there's no huge changes, but today we do need to get things done. So let's hop on in and start working towards it. Let me get the world up.
I say let's go ahead. So after the Lich, what's after the Lich boss-wise?
We aren't even close to the Lich. We're still dealing with the food problem and the XP problem.
Oh yeah, aren't we? And we have a lot we need, because we still need to finish the house.
Yeah. We did get all the Ratatouille seeds last time. Let me check. I want to see...
Did we? I thought we still had like 2 left.
No? There's only 8.
I guess so. I could have sworn we still had 2 left.
Nope. I grabbed them at the end of last time. So let's double check. Let me make sure I got my sources right. So far, we've started on a house. We found the stronghold. I went around, grabbed a bunch of Ratatouille. And we still need to grow said Ratatouille and also handle like XP farms and such. But I was thinking, I did mention, oh, we could do chickens or we could do a bunch of zombies, skellies because of bone meal. Although skellies would still be good for bone meal. I'm thinking I just hop into the nether and I make even a Strider farm would be better than any overworld farm we can easily do. Because a level 30 Strider is still gonna be better.
Hi, race car.
I'm assuming that's a race car in the chat. Hello, Flying Burnt Toast. Welcome. Hi. Thank you, race car. Fantastic. All the chaos immediately back to back to back. Thank you.
Are you in the world right now?
Yes, I need to actually... Yeah, I need to do the things. I forget. There you go. I'm doing good, thank you very much. We're just getting started, so you are doing perfect timing. You have perfect timing, if I can word correctly. The overworld is... Oh, there you are. The overworld is level 1 to 50. If I could explain this. The nether starts at... I can't remember. I think I changed the nether so it starts at 50. Transmask, my gaydar is off. Yes, I am. I believe I have to double check where the nether starts. I need to look at my own configs because my brain's going back and forth between what it used to be and what it defaulted changed to. And then I think I changed it back to what the old thing used to be.
I think it started at 50. I don't remember.
It used to start at 20, but I think I changed it back to 50, or I might have just changed it to 25. Thank you, Billy Bob, for continuing to add to the amalgamation. Transfem stuck in the closet. Basement padlock closet. Absolutely fair. Sometimes it's just what you need to do to keep safe. Let me check the configs. I hear you doing stuff. I currently cannot see it, and nor can chat because this is the old version of Minecraft, so I can't do the windowed full screen. Ascendant. Scale settings. What did I set this to? This is not the correct. I'm just gonna assume it's 25 or 50. Will you stream tomorrow so I can finish the goal? I will do my best to. So. Oh, I forgot how fast I am. Oh, I forgot all the XP I have because... Oh yeah, I'm level 100. That'll do it. Okay, so we don't lose these in a ridiculous fashion. Let me pop the Ratatouille seeds we gathered last time. Ratatouille is really overpowered. It is fantastic food. It is, yeah, all that hunger, all that saturation, and it only takes these crops. So we just need to grow it. And how much? I got a second floor of a house done. I think I would much rather get us across the line to having long-term XP sources. Oh, you did go into the nether, right? Oh, jeez, frickin'. I forgot there's a bunch of... Oh, right, the silverfish hit like a truck, I forgot. And I'm living off of toast! Okay.
Being a moose.
Perhaps I'm gonna run around to various structures and steal there's better. I'm gonna steal a bunch of hay bales and get us a backstock of toast, because I forgot how bad this was. How bad the food situation was, especially for me. Ow! I just wasted the waystone teleporting back to warps. I wasted the warp stone teleporting back to a waystone that was right next to me. Okay, it is daytime. I haven't explored out this way, so we're gonna go out this way. No, kill the chicken.
Keep in mind, I believe, yeah, we never did fix the village problem, so if you are going to a village, I cannot.
Didn't you say you were, you figured it out last time? Because there was, like, you had a random button shift, or, like, camera lock?
But I don't remember. I don't know if
I couldn't tell you because you didn't tell me the details of that. All I remember is you figured out it was something locking your camera, and that it should be solved now from that, but you were going to be careful of villages regardless.
Yeah, I think I'm still just gonna be careful of villages anyways.
Blue moon sets you don't feel so lucky anymore.
Oh yes, I forgot about sleeps.
I did a random run the other day. Just like, I just want to play. I'm ADHD going burr. I just want to play a game and have dopamine. And so I just loaded up a random world and got stuck. I let myself start in the deep dark. Yeah, you know what? We'll go by boat. Why not? And it proved to be the most interesting, fun start I've had. Because it's... Being a phantom, I definitely have a lot easier time than most would. Getting stuck in a situation like that. But... It's still... I don't have any wood, I don't have any planks. The phantom fully relies on me being able to access any sort of food. Which... Yeah, you don't exactly come by that in the deep dark. Rarely do you.
I mean, besides for god apples, but they're not really that good of a food
Yeah,
source.
there's one room, there's an ice chest room that does offer some golden carrots, but I had to rely on the very few player bases from the mimics across the place, and artifacts. Is there something you want, Billy Bob? Am I not paying attention to the VC chat? Nope, you have not. Okay. Okay. Hey bales. At least this is a new area. Unconquered area. All this up here is ocean. How's your day doing so far? Very good, thank you. Billy Bob, if I hear the join effect while I'm live, that means I know you're doing the sound effect. I have streamer mode on. I know you're doing the effect. What? What is? Just large rock. Okay. Cool. Has this been unexplored? Yes, perhaps. At least the stable's here. Kill pig. Give. Actually, it might have been because I saw a pork chop sitting on the ground. Maybe? There's no ladder. for some reason. Oh, there's an enchantment table up here. It's a full enchanting station.
Yeah, that's
Protection one.
like one of the towers I think I've kidnapped.
Lizard to Fortnite? Like the lizard sound
Lizards
effect?
in Fortnite. Oh, the lizard thing from the new like I believe it's Pixar.
Yeah. Lizard. 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 Or however the inflection is.
Lizard.
No, it's a skin. Oh no. Is this the Mothman thing all over again? If you're unaware, a while back, we're talking like 2018 when Mothman memes were all over the place, Fortnite did in fact add a Mothman skin with a lamp weapon.
I know about the Mothman skin. I didn't know it was because of a meme. But no, I think
How
it's
do you not know-
official collab.
Hold, full stop. How do you not know the Mothman meme?
No, I know of the meme. I didn't know the skin was added because of the meme.
Ah, okay. Okay. Hey, Bills. Thank you, thank you, thank you. What? Oh, hi, sir. Yeah, no, goodbye.
That blissfully underwear.
I don't know. One of my friends who I refer to as Sugar Cookie on the streams, I've had to tell her and explain. We're in very different corners of the internet. I've had to, the absolute joy of explaining to her this is a bucket and so many others. Was Patrick Star living under a rock? How does someone not know Mathman? Sometimes people are in just very different corners of the internet. Me and Sugar Cookie have been, not hey bale, wheat.
Like,
Just as equally important.
me and you are in
I'm on Tumblr meme internet.
We're on like same side but not same corner.
Yeah. Cause I don't really pay attention to what you think I would pay attention to being a streamer and gamer. I do not know any streamer or gamer beef, current happenings. I did not know that Reanimal was a game until after Jacksepticeye posted the video. Actually, the day before, because a friend told me about it. I had no clue it was happening, or what it was about, or even who made it. Not a single idea. I could tell you the current happenings on Tumblr, though. I can tell you that.
You're like 2000s chronically online.
It's a different sort. Yeah. I just enjoy my little corner of the internet. I could tell you current fandom beef for my fandom, but that's about it. I don't even pay attention to fandom beef anymore. I'm just existing. I do not pay attention to that stuff. I don't got the time. I'm too busy procrastinating editing videos.
I don't see
And still trying to finish. I need to just get my butt in gear. For some reason, every time I have free time to do anything, instead of, actually doing the things I want to do, like finally getting the Toxic Bee in Plants vs. Zombies Guarded Warfare, because holy shit, I have half the characters, I still haven't gotten it. Or continuing my Skyrim A through Z playthrough. If you don't know, I'm just killing all the NPCs in order. It's legendary survival mode, so it's a little difficult. Little bit annoying.
What the heck is this?
What the heck is those? But nah, instead of that, I spent today playing on Roblox. What was it called?
Yeah, for 2 hours and 5 minutes before you switched.
I had an AFK while I ate dinner. Destroy or defeat evil pizza place, something like that. It's one of those games that looks like it'd be so shit on the cover of it. And it's like lower quality, yes, but there's so much passion put into it.
But it's artistically and
There's so much passion put into it. I don't care how low quality it is. Hello everybody. Welcome. Hello, Milo. We doing good. Hello, Wolfie. Welcome back. We are all doing fantastic, I assume. I believe to be. The Defeat Evil Pizza Place takes itself just not seriously enough. That it's absolutely fantastic. The entire plot of it is you get to your first day of a job at a pizza place, and this horribly rude person comes in. Which is the person you will later need to defeat. And he's like, oh, I want to buy the restaurant. That's not on the menu, so you're not allowed to do that. So he removes the previous person. I'm not sure what I'm allowed to say on Twitch. I'm just being careful here. Assume the worst possible thing. He removes the person, because limbs flying everywhere is definitely removing the person. And...
so he bought this person, got it.
Yeah. And then fires you for being a terrible person. You get thrown, literally yeeted. You watch this giant crocodile man full dunk yeet you into the trash can. And then the guy next door is like, oh, I'm stealing pizza competition's business, trying to get ideas. Hey, you want to work for me? And now you're working with the guy. Well, not really. He only shows up for the cutscenes, so I don't know why he's there, but he is. But now you're working with this guy to make a better pizza restaurant, and every time you, like, finish an area and you go to expand, there's another cutscene of how horrible the crocodile, which is the horrible guy. It's a crocodile named Clyde, or I think it's an alligator. It's an alligator named Clyde. And you see how absolutely downright horrible he's doing while you're just chill there hanging out. And as far as Tycoon games go, I get a little picky about them sometimes, because unfortunately Roblox is an era where they're just cash grabs most of the time.
Yeah.
It's actually really well paced. It's a bit slow at times, but they keep you busy for those slow times. And they always make sure it's not like a serious grind at all to get between the various different tiers of things you need.
That's good.
So it's actually seriously well-paced and well done.
Yeah, I'm like... I have like that weird tism where I'd play that for about an hour and then be like, yeah, I'm kind of bored. Even if this is fun, but I'm bored.
That penguin I hear in the background? Yes!
What?
Milo the Floof is asking. What? What is this? What is? At least there's more hay bales. We're gonna have plenty of toast. We could technically... Do I want to deal with making us toast sandwiches? Is that worth it? That might be worth... The problem is that also it requires buttered toast, which means we need salt and milk. But I feel like... Let me check. Toast sandwich versus hamburger. It's the exact same as a hamburger, and a hamburger is one piece of bread, a frying pan, and a raw beef. A toast sandwich is technically 3 pieces of bread and butter. So I think I'd rather make us hamburgers. Why do I have...
Yeah.
Music. I don't know.
Oh, yeah, I forget. Okay.
Hello, said hi.
While I was sitting under a tree, but I'm so glad we have umbrellas.
Yeah. Milo the Floof 69 says hello, penguin.
Hello.
We make all the stuffs. I have a lot of bread now. And I'm gonna run out of food. Wait, didn't I have... No, I don't have more bread. I do have 27 cooked meat bundles. Apparently. Thank you, past me, for doing that. I'll take more hay bales. I'll take more wheat. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Homestead of... Oh, you stupid... Structures, please actually load all your ladders. That'd be fantastic. Thank you. That is an armor stand. That is not a person. Take that. And take it to that. Nope. This is why I love being a... Hey! Freeway stone! Perfect. I was literally just about to place one down. We could easily come... Or at least I could easily come back out here. You know what? We're just gonna name it North.
Oh, here's the Discord boop sound because one of my group chats are blowing up right now.
And that's when you mute it for 10 minutes or 15 or whatever it is.
I'm about to just permanently mute it.
Absolutely fair. I've had to do that for quite a few of them.
Because the problem is I join a bunch of servers for like content creators and stuff, and then forget I'm in it, and then never mute it, and then whenever I get a bunch of boops, I'm struggling to figure out which one is going off. I really hope I made that. Oh, I did.
There you go. They make meat bundles. Oh, hey, we do have some raw beef. Hold on. I'm gonna steal some of that.
You do?
I know you've left a frying pan here unless you popped the second one in here. There's a frying pan.
Yeah, I did.
So I remember last time you left the frying pan here and then I complained about you not bringing it with you and I crafted you another one. How much freaking iron have you collected? Why is there a bunch of iron smelting?
Oh yeah, that's all from like day one when I was.
Why do you have so much iron? Why though? I still haven't fixed that night, but I need to fix that. Is this just hoarding tendencies with the iron, or why is there spider eyes in the pit?
Yes, I was just mining, and I was like, "Oh, mine," and then like, there was just a boatload of raw iron, so I was just smelting it for XP.
Okay, yeah, that's fair. You know, for my room, I'm just gonna turn it into a campfire I'm just gonna turn it into the bread factory. Bread Factory 2.0. Can I remember how to craft? That's the other question. Let's just pop 16 of them.
Where am I being? Why don't I just off
this?
Does
I
it?
want that.
No. Why doesn't?
Why doesn't?
That's not good. If you has offhands, is there a roof on our? I'm gonna hope there is. Nope.
Not directly right there. No, not yet. Yeah, I'm just gonna do this. Oh, it's fine. That works out. Okay, cool. Perfect. Toast factory. I probably could have done that a lot better, but it's fine. Why do we have a bunch of mobs just sitting right outside our house? Off our lawn. Off the lawn. You run around to this end where there's a horde. Out of here. It's not even like we have an iron farm or anything.
Yeah, that's my thing. I have no idea, but it's been doing that.
I don't know either.
Am I the only one who hears like music? Does you hear music?
I am not currently hearing battle music. No.
No, not battle music. Like a music disc music.
I am not currently hearing that either. Oh, my cat's snoring. Bread factory. Or toast factory, not bread factory. Toast. This toast. This toast. Actually, I have so many of these placed that by the time I go around, the first ones I placed are finished. That's good. That's perfect. Fantastic. Do you want a stack of toast? I got a stack of toast. Have toast.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. Let me actually put a roof on this and get this wrapped up. Hello, random player. Goodbye, random player. Why are you fast? Oh, because you're level 3. We're just on the edge of level 2 and 3, apparently. I have just enough spruce wood so we could get this fucking house done. And move on with the playthrough, because this has taken way too long to build a house! It's just a Steve slowly walking to me. I got somebody's head. This guy's walking so slow. You can't jump. Okay, you can jump over the crafting table. Why are you fast? You don't need to be fast. You really don't. Hitman. Goodbye, Hitman. Y'all need to stop. What's this over here? What is? Not the baby child. What is? Oh, that's a ravine, but that's not what I'm concerned. Oh, it's a... Yeah, it's the messed up guy. Okay. I need to switch around resource packs. There's a skeleton creeper from the graveyard mod. That's just a broken skin because of the different resource packs we have. And I'm not sure what I want to change it over to. Probably have to look into that. Yes. And pop, yes. This. Get rid of all the things so we can actually build some of the things, get some of the things done. Do I want... Yeah, well, we'll put down a few more windows. Now let's see if I remember how to do any of these crafting recipes. I probably don't. We want... I want to do at least 2 more of those windows. And then it was that kind of thing. Oh right, this is so much better than normal Minecraft, I forgot. Because the old useful stonecutter was so much better. And I think at some point they might have griefed it, or it's just not the same anymore. Or we don't have it for the version that we're playing. I don't remember what it was, but it's not like it used to.
We have useful stonecutter in this.
No, I'm saying... I know we do. That's what I'm talking about. I'm saying... referring to, like, Passion SMP, it's not the same on that one. Because we're on old versions, some of these mods are a little better than what you'd expect on other versions. Okay, so I can't do that.
Yeah.
Why I refuse to move the mod pack up.
It's weird, because a lot of, like, really old things you wouldn't expect to be good, but, like, then you remember how, like, crazy the modding scene. We have 2 chests for enchanted books.
That's on you. I have not dealt with the enchanted books at all.
I wasn't saying it wasn't on me.
Okay.
Wait, what did I say?
Where? Here. You said we have 2 chests for enchanted books.
Yes. Oh, I meant like a... Yeah, we did, but I meant like I wasn't... By saying it wasn't on me, I was saying it like... I didn't say it wasn't my fault. I was saying... I was just noting that...
I'm curious why you brought it up then.
Because I thought it was weird, that's all.
Okay. You could just say, oh, it's... Hey, we have 2 enchanted book chests. That's kind of funny. Or when did that happen?
Yeah, that's what I was trying to get out. Can you place... Can you open a chest with lantern above it? No, you cannot. Oh, yeah, you can.
Yeah, you should be able to. It's not a full block.
I forget sometimes.
general rule of thumb, if it's some sort of transparent block, then it's usually fine. Unless the face of the transparent block, or like, for example, a stair. If the flat of the stair is to the chest, then it won't open. As long as it has some sort of transparent opening directly above it, then it's usually fine.
Okay.
Brain needs to work with what brain needs to do. Okay. I lost my head for a second there. Thank you, Kofi Bot. I think we're gonna do a bit of a flat roof here, not too much, because I don't want it to dwarf this area. And then up here could be a bit more of a normal roof. And now all the mobs are attacking each other. What all of Makaz did I add? By the way, we have handcrafted, so you can actually decorate your room very well.
When it's not raining.
Yeah. I am actively working on the roof. It's probably going to be deep slate because we have a lot of that. You should... Oh, actually, you don't have enough of your room. Let me just do your roof then real quick. Hi.
Hi-oh. Yeah, that's why my bed's still down here.
I have a bunch of I have a bunch of heads, period. Doink. Doink, doink, doink. I do not need silverfish head. Yeah, give me all that. And drop a little bit off. Could do a texture. Ooh, running bond would actually look really good. Okay. We do a little bit of that and give... Good, there is running bond stair. Be a little awkward if it didn't. And then turn a bunch of these into running bond. And we'll see how much definition I can give a very simple A-frame. Hopefully a lot. Hi, with the random players. Out of here. Thank you. No. That'll happen. We're gonna... For this one, I'm just gonna do a simple slant like this. Which should give us an even slant the whole way down, and wrap it up. With this. Do it. That is not the correct block. Bonk. And if I can... Yep. Nice. Too fast. I don't have Swift Sneak. We bonk, bonk, bonk. I'm half tempted to try and make this side look better, but I don't care. And those are the wrong blocks. Immediately forgot what I was doing. Again. We do all the bunkus.
Oh wait, that means
And
I
a bunk.
can...
And your roof is done, and there should be enough covered space for you to just walk into your room.
Okay.
And I'll quickly... I don't have the blocks on me. I need the woven. Why am I... There's no reason for me to be on fire. Oh, right. It's silly. It's silly about the covered blocks. For some reason, the trap doors. Very goofy.
Okay, cute little...
Head up. Yes? Yes. we do it a bonk bonk and do the same thing on each of these sides. Actually, we're gonna do the patio. I could just do a patio in front. We'll, yeah, we'll do a patio here. I'd much rather do the patio right here. Hello, random zomboy. Goodbye, random zomboy. And then come on. Nope. That is not the way I need to go. And I clicked my Windows key. Because for some reason I decided... Actually, I know exactly why I decided. To put my Origins key as my left alt. So half the time I'm accidentally clicking my Windows key instead. Nope. Bonk. We did that. We pull all of this across. I'm half tempted to do a chimney for my room because of all the campfires, but kinda also don't want to bother with that. I'd rather just have the weird arsenal of fireplaces going on. Oh! Thunder. Lovely. After I'm done placing up this roof, would you like to sleep the rain away?
Yeah, that'd be nice, but there's monsters nearby.
Hold on, let me yoink them. Hey, buddies. Yeah, goodbye. Yeah, goodbye. And yeah, goodbye. Let me drop that off and
Right
pop
as
that
you do
away.
that, the rain's gone, so
Ah, well.
that's convenient.
Thunderstorm immediately just went, if you're gonna sleep, I don't want to stick around for that. I'll just get out of your hair.
Yeah.
Let's try, I want to see if we do something like
I
that.
don't particularly know how I'm gonna decorate my room.
Treat it like The Sims.
It's just as bad. I just put utilities where they go. And then just try and make... And I don't even, like, really play The Sims the way The Sims are supposed to be played, I guess.
And that means... Oh, which key? Did I not have it? Which... Oh, there it is. I can actually see what I'm doing instead of the umbrella in my face. I'm very curious what you mean by not intended way of playing The Sims.
Malicious God.
I'd argue that is the main way to play The Sims.
Okay, but like worse malicious God, like
I know for a fact. I know for a fact Lilac, when she gets bored of The Sims, that she causes unnecessary drama and then keeps playing.
It's always so fun.
Yeah. What? Oh, that's why I'm stuck. Just give it a little texture. Texture, I say as I nom on the drywall. I want the drywall cookies now. I want some, what are they called? Meringues. I want meringues. I guess technically that's also a Tumblr meme. That most probably wouldn't be aware of. There's a very specific post I have sitting in my head.
It sounds familiar to me, but I have no idea.
Meringue cookies is basically just sugar and egg whipped together, and then you bake them for a little bit.
Well, I know what a meringue cookie is, but a drywall cookie.
Saying drywall
love how
cookie
that
is just making fun of the meringues.
Oh, that they taste like drywall, got it.
No, that the texture is like drywall.
I'm thinking like a literal cookie made of drywall.
No. No. Did I do? No, I did not do the exact same. Good. Yeah, we'll do that. Yeah. Let's do that. Why not?
Well,
Oh, hey, it's
that's
night.
my side of the internet. We eat random objects. And bread. Oh, I was thinking, I do have, what is it? Stardew. And I know that a lot of people on PSNP play Stardew.
I
I
am
feel like
not
this
allowed
is
to host the
something
world.
Yeah.
We've had this conversation. I am
this
not
is
allowed to
what we're
host it.
talking about.
I've played Stardew twice or thrice now. So far, I've only played it unmedicated. I have not touched it since I've been medicated, so it might change. But those times that I did play, I only played 2 or 3 times. I never got farther than I think the beginning or middle of year 2, and I have about 200 to 300 hours in it. So, I'm not allowed to host it. I will do nothing but play. And that is not healthy for
Yeah,
me.
me and my friend have a world where we play together. And I spent like forever because we just recently got to year 1 fall, and I spent a while he was going to the restroom and getting stuff to drink. I spent a while figuring out what the max for the star points were. It's 9999, so you can't go past 10k.
Lovely. I think I mostly did fishing, and then I
just how much of just fuck you time I have.
a slightly pissed off Pumpkin, another one of my friends, she's in chat sometimes plush, the other day, because I just texted them, oh, you know, average unemployed Monday, breaking into the Thalmor embassy for their garlic. Because for some reason they have like 26 garlic in the Thalmor embassy, and I want to make my crab stew.
The Thalmor, what is the Thalmor embassy?
It's location in Skyrim. It's where the fuck-ass wood elves that insist they're better than everybody else hang out. And it's also a main story location.
The real I'm thinking this is the real place, where it's like the vaults up in Antarctica or like.
No. This is an average Tuesday breaking into Area 51. No, this is average Monday playing Skyrim. Not the way it was intended. At least I'm not like enchanting knives with fire power 3000 or something. Or not firepower. Fire damage 3000, but which, for context, knives are not an easy thing to come across in Skyrim. You can find daggers, but knives and other cutlery, like forks, are very rare, sometimes found overworld item. Because that's just how Skyrim is. But you can make a overpowered knife if you so wish.
I'm fairly confused as to what that does.
That enchanting a knife with like fire damage 4000?
That, but also, apparently you can put obsidian on a diamond axe, but it still keeps the name diamond axe. So I'm just gonna
wait,
do it
what?
and see what it happens. In a smithing table, you can put obsidian on the tip of your diamond axe.
9, 1.9,
Oh,
2.5,
no,
5.8.
because I'm confused now. What does this do? It repairs it, so I'm gonna do it, but I'm like, there's nothing.
I couldn't tell you actually, because the tool stats are the same.
Yeah, that's
5.8,
what I'm
yeah.
sitting here looking at.
Well,
Like,
okay.
the stats are the same, but it repairs my axe.
Maybe it gives it more durability?
Let me go.
That's the only other thought I'd have that wouldn't be on the normal stats, but it'd upgrade it.
I fully. I saw you sitting on the roof, and I thought you were just like a mob in full diamond armor, and I'm like, oh, that's not good.
Oh no, it's a child! Out of here. This is not a daycare center. Oh, I am taking a lot of... Are you trying to hit me? I almost died.
I'm not.
I was taking a lot of damage from something.
It was me. Because it was
Yeah.
from a tree.
That's why I'm saying don't hit me.
And I hit you.
After I see an arrow shoot right past my head when there were no more mobs.
Oh, what is the base durability of a, diamond axe?
I can tell you in a second. 'Cause I could upgrade mine really quick. In the smelter. Or the smithing table.
To the obsidian thing?
Yeah. No, I can upgrade it to diamond. Oh, right, because... let me grab a piece of gold.
I do have a diamond.
I have one. I just needed a piece of gold first. It normally has 15,000 or 1,500. 561 durability.
By doubling it.
Ooh.
Because now my diamond axe has 2061.
Is YouTube music not letting me listen to my Minecraft parodies? Yes, it is. As always.
I'm probably going to do that with other things, such as my diamond pickaxe. Can I do that with said armor? No, it does not be able to.
No.
So I have good armor, and I don't want to lose it. Do I just save up the levels?
Did you go into the... Did you steal a bunch from the Stronghold library?
Steal a bunch of what?
Enchantment books? It's usually overflowing with mending.
Oh, yeah, no, there wasn't any mending. I don't know where I got all these enchanted books, though.
Probably
That might
from
be the place I
there.
got 'em from?
It is a giant library. That's probably where you got them from. It's a fourth of the Stronghold.
That's a fair possibility. I also might just go there to go loot it more, because that sounds fun.
Good luck. I wish you the best. I will try and run over if you die.
Look at my pickaxe. It look cool. It's
Okay,
tiny.
now I hear...
That might Well, this is a different song than what it was.
Who is it?
Yeah, I think it's bugged with the backpacks, and it just doesn't show it.
Oh, no, I found him.
I forget last time I was here, the stronghold started to decay in front of me.
What?
Silverfish. Because apparently there's a silverfish spawner behind the stairs.
Yeah,
So
there
the
is.
entirety of the...
Yes, I did.
I'm gonna stop hitting these before I make the thing decay more.
That's right. That's why I need to stay phantom mode. That would be why.
Ooh. Oh, there's a lot of corn and hay bales here.
Hey, bunk.
Ooh.
And that means I need to change you to be an entrance instead.
Damn, I really do wish there was a way to...
Can I make this 3 I can make it 3 tall. Oh. Oh ho ho.
Ooh, go.
Oh, but that wouldn't match the... Oh, it won't match my doors, though. I want to match my doors.
Builder problems be like... I've actually gotten into, like, a lot of terraforming on this other server.
Hmm. This is not the right chest.
It's something. Oh, wait.
Yeah, long hours blasting something or other. Huh?
Where did you find all the iron? Was it in the furnaces or was it in the chest?
It's in one of the double chests. There's like 6 stacks of
no,
iron ingots and 47 blocks of iron.
Oh yeah, no, that's from me robbing the stronghold of all of its
Okay.
generated iron golems. I mean, a good bit of that is from mining, but Yeah, a lot of that is also from just me kidnapping a bunch of iron.
The, like, fake iron golems about the place? From that one room that I can't remember off the top of my head.
It's yeah. I mean, they're not really fake. They could spawn if they weren't.
Yeah, I know, but it's like, they're meant to be, but they're not actually.
Right.
That's not where I need to throw that. I need to throw that in here. For my beautiful brick bond. Your patio is incoming. If I remember that I can't crouch while I'm building outside during the day.
Just ask for a patio. Did I?
Bip, bip, bip. Bip, bip,
Oh, are you
bip,
gonna edit? Cover the waste dome.
That is what I just did.
That's the patio. Got it. Got it. Got it. Got it.
Yeah. That's the only spot left for one. And that is where we agreed to have it.
Yep. What the heck are these rooms?
Boop. Bop, bop, bop.
I just about sent myself in the lava.
Ideas.
Oh, hi, mister. Oh, apparently they can get mad at me. Oh.
What? Do you want to explain that one?
Can get mad at me.
You what? Oh, the
So
Enderman.
there's this cage, and the strong
Above lava.
held an Enderman. Yeah, that held an Enderman. I looked down. And I'm like, oh, hi, Mr. Enderman, and apparently aggroed him. So.
Yeah.
Apparently they
So
can get mad at me.
no end for you, not yet. That's what we've learned.
Sob. I wanted to go see my family. There was no end for me anyways. I'd probably get one... I mean, for sure getting one shot by the dragon, but I'd probably do something stupid and definitely get one shot by the dragon.
Yeah. Have you ever, that reminds me. Have you ever used, Young's Better End Island?
Yes, I have. I know there is a bug with the Ender Dragon.
That is not what I was asking.
Where
I'm
it
just curious if you've enjoyed the cinematics before.
Cinematics.
Okay, so I want to at least bring you in the end for that, then we can pop down a waste down and you can sit up the fight if you want.
My screen froze. Well, it stopped responding. That's not good.
Is it a keybind? Did you
No,
press
that
a
was
key?
like an actual crash.
Oh. I'm very curious
I
to
think
what
was
caused
because
it.
I think it's because I teleported and then punched a block at the same time.
Hmm. That is an interesting
As it
thing to cause a crash.
Well, that's exactly what happened before it like crashed. So that's what I'm thinking. I can go look at the logs though. That's.
I'd be very I'm very curious in case it does happen to be something that was because of the server or the server itself or what have you. I forgot I have tea in front of me.
Don't let tea get cold.
It is perfectly drinkable temperature now because previously it was way too freaking hot to drink. What's doing? Torches. That's what I doing. That's what doing. I believe I need these in order to make the ones I want to make. Pliers. Oh, it's for Macaw's bridges. Okay, okay. Where are you? Oh, Iron Shield, right. I don't know if you know. I'm gonna say this real quick in case you didn't know. There are tiered shields.
Oh, can they take banners?
I could not tell you. Probably not.
Do I want?
You can make a
banner
diamond
or
shield
do
is
I
what I'm
want
trying to tell you.
banner? I might, because it might be useful for me if I remember to use it. Oh no, I can't find the crash log, so we shall
well.
never know.
Boop, boop. And then we do boop, boop. And then I run to my mess of a room. Boop, boop. Boop, boop. All the torches. Boop, boop. Boop, boop. And a boop, boop. And I think... Oh, wait, hold on. I could place a few more torches.
I think I have an idea of what might have happened, given the fact of that guy was there. So, I think I teleported, then hit a block, took the damage tick from the, like, teleporting, as well as the damage tick from a silverfish hitting me, as I was also breaking a block. So I think that might have caused something.
That is an interesting thing to cause something. We don't need more iron. I am amazed we have as much as we do.
More iron,
and it's hoarding at this point. That random piece of cardboard isn't gonna become a project later. It just needs to go in the recycling. Okay.
Fine.
I am gonna go down into the nether. Whoop.
But like, what if it does become a project later?
Then that is all on you, and you can deal with the hoarding yourself. We need to go deep. Oh, hey! Oh, that is a blaze spawner.
Oh yeah.
What would the beacon even be used for?
Magic. I don't know.
That's a lot of effort to go through when you are literally a cleric.
Magic.
You can literally make more powerful potions in the base game. Just on your own by existing.
My room is decorated so I can. I might...
Maybe, because that's the class you picked. Let me grab... Actually, because we're so close to one, I just need to walk around and find. Let me grab... Actually, a waystone.
The only piece of armor I have that has mending is my protection 2 on breaking 2 chest plate. The rest is very much in dire need of just being sent to the scrapyard.
What is this one? Oh, we need to keep this.
You know what?
Let me make a note of this one.
Yeah,
I found a wither skelly spawner.
Ooh, let's do that.
Those guys are going to be annoying and not nearly as helpful if I find a hoglin or... Well, striders technically aren't as helpful, but at least they're passive, so we don't have to worry about them fighting us back.
Fine. I mean, we do already...
Hey, guess who found another fortress?
Yippee.
Also, by the way, don't even bother with the fortress itself. Don't bother with the upstairs. Just don't. It's not worth it. I am gonna walk into the wall. I'm gonna find the main tower of this place. Ah, hey, I found another wither skelly spawner.
Nice.
But we don't need it. I do want the random skull that's here, though. That makes 2, right? Because you found one at some point? Oh, it's frick- Oh, I hate. Why did you have to be... Don't tell me it's a pipeline. It's a... Of course it's a pipeline! Of course it's a pipeline, you suck. Okay, pipelines suck. The blazes in them have a minimum of like 5 or so totems. I don't remember the exact amount. All of them have at least 5 totems. Don't mess with it, okay? If you see blue terracotta, don't mess with it.
5 or so totems, don't mess with
Yes. Don't mess with it. Okay, where is the...
Not the
Yes, I'm
pipeline,
here. I know I'm here. Why am I just taking general damage from existing in this biome?
Something
affect me? I don't know.
Why would I ever do that?
I'm on fire. Okay, yeah, I'm on fire. That would be why. Where in the world is this main building? I passed it. That's what I did.
I have a wonderful question for you.
Mm-hmm.
Would you rather hole block it? Oh, that was a waste of time. Or no, well, technically I could just spot it. Would you rather... Give me a sec.
Mm-hmm. I don't want to do... Just
Okay.
Where's the tower?
To get a piece of diamond armor, would you rather use whole block of diamond or 1 diamond?
1 diamond, obviously.
Yeah, well, apparently we get the crafting option of whole block of diamond or 1 diamond.
I wouldn't be willing to test it in survival. I would be interested in testing a creative if it adds more durability for doing that. Considering it's already done that with obsidian.
I doubt it. But maybe. That'd be interesting to see if it carries over.
Oh, by the way, nether fortresses have a small chance of having ancient debris and or netherite. Or nether scrap. It's a small chance, but it is there.
Do you maybe mind looking for said things for me?
I am already looking around anyway. It is a very small chance if I find even one, it'd be a rare thing. We're talking like somewhere between the equivalent, not quite as hard as finding not quite as hard as finding stone diamond ore or emerald diamond ore, but close to it. It's like finding deep slate coal.
That's exactly what I was just about to say.
Yeah.
So like deep slate coal.
Yeah. Deep slate coal, stone, redstone. It's up there. It's not quite, but it is certainly up there. We'd be far luckier, oh, frickin', of course,
Getting
in the middle.
thermite.
No, going to a black spiral. There's an ant on me. I've gotten really good at flicking because I keep finding ants everywhere, and I take visceral joy in just flicking them and yeeting them into the void. Because there's nothing for them in here.
All I could think of is the Kirby meme where Kirby just gets sent into like a
Hey! Forgot about this room.
protection 4, but I don't have 40 levels. No. Oh no.
Oh, that is just I walked into what I thought was just like, oh, hey, a cave. No, that was just a lava pool. That's what I get for being a phantom. That's what I get.
Please don't die. That'd be bad. Dying's bad. It's not good for you.
Tell that to the sentries.
Oh, what?
I have one last tunnel to go down. This fortress sucks ass. Oh! It's a Skelly with a backpack. He didn't drop the backpack. And he dropped a 3 durability iron helmet.
Yummy.
Do I even have a chest I can yoink this into so I don't have to deal with it? Hey! Buddy 2, electric boogaloo, and a skelly. No, there isn't a chest for me to eat this in. Yeah.
Probably
And does what it says on the tin.
yummy. I wish I had more levels. More levels would be nice.
Is eating a Vex like the equivalent of taking a deep inhale of like a pot of soup that's, what's the word I want? Stewing, I guess, because I can't think of the correct word.
I has no idea, but I think I has an idea of what you're trying to get at.
Hold on, I literally saw this word earlier today. Oh, I'm just gonna relook up the thing. I think it's stew. It might be. Not sure.
Ooh? Oh, yeah, no, that's a waste.
Simmer! I scrolled like a tiny bit through this. I didn't even see the right word. The word I'm looking for is simmer. Is eating a Vex like the equivalent of when a stew's simmering and you take a big old whiff of it, big old inhale? You could practically taste the thing.
Probably. What would a Vex taste like?
Something closer to somewhere between vanilla ice cream and just plain old ice, I think.
I don't know, I feel like it would taste like agony. You know?
What does agony taste like? You've dug this hole. I want to see what the hole becomes.
So I know what I'm thinking, but I can't verbalize what I'm thinking. Let me see. Like,
Does it taste like when you add too much salt? Just barely, but it's enough that it's annoying you?
no, that would be like not annoyance.
Not like
that'd
it's
be, like,
actually salty, but just the feeling of it, that you know you've messed up the recipe.
No, that'd be like jealousy. Or not jealousy. What do I mean by jealousy? That'd probably be like the taste of embarrassment. You know?
I feel like it'd be more frustration than embarrassment. Embarrassment is, I cooked this for my girlfriend in front of her parents, and they all hate it.
Yeah.
And I could see the mom giving me a side eye because she knows how I fucked it up and is waiting for me to realize how I fucked it up.
Right.
There's very few ways my storytelling and writing background helps me. This is the only one.
I'm thinking it's like. Okay,
Oh, hey,
so
this structure.
agony.
This is here.
Like a very angry sour grape.
Oh,
You know?
I feel like it's got to be a bowl of grapes that's been left out for like a day.
Yeah. God, your room is so warm. Oh, so warm. We're turning your room into a kitchen. You get a room higher up in the house. You
I already
sleep in
said
the
I'm
house.
just gonna. I'm just sticking my. I don't even have. I only have my sleeping bag. I don't think I've slept once this entire playthrough. I don't think either of us have actually.
I have.
I think I set my spawn point once and a bed in the dungeon, and that's it.
Yeah, that was like day one.
Yeah.
But I have slept like a normal person.
I should probably just look up.
Unlike my real life,
dungeon.
like my real life self, I don't sleep in person. Or I do.
You don't
but I
sleep?
like, regularly. Regularly, like I don't sleep like a normal person. Is what I'm getting at.
I'm hoping you mean by sleep schedule and not, oh, I've slept once this week.
Yeah, we'll go with that.
Penguin. You good?
Sleep schedules are a construct made by the shadow government to make people waste time and not make money.
Wouldn't it be the opposite?
I have absolutely no idea.
Or are you too sleep deprived to realize?
Yes. I don't sleep, honestly. Oh, what the fuck is that? I think my sleep paralysis demon is coming to get me.
Where was it? Where was it?
Why?
I guess
I'm so stout. Please help.
I'm a little teapot, short and stout. Here is my nose. Here is my spout. You okay?
I don't like lag. It's like playing Five Nights at Freddy's, like, Ultimate Custom Night, but everything's at 20.
What the hell? Okay, I guess I'm here though.
I don't know if that makes sense, but
I'm back in the nether. I'm back in the fucking building again. I didn't want, unless this is a new one. Is this a new one? No, is this? Or am I just in a different part of the same one?
yeah.
Same one. Okay. So I am back in the fucking building again. Oh, there I go. There go my kneecaps. That didn't work anyway.
I like my bow and arrow. It has power 5, so everything go kaboom.
Oh, we need to get you netherite mining. So you can use all the netherrack in the tool leveling table to get that to like 30 at least.
Oh yeah. Hey, give me a second. I gotta go, like,
Do a
do
thing.
what my
No
bow
worries.
wants.
What the fuck? I don't remember. Let me... Dungeon. Oh, what are you called then? Just search dungeon? No? Do I need to search nether dungeon? Dungeon spawners? Yes, yes I do. Huh. Gotta love parkouring across gaps through blocks. Oop. Eat all the toast. Eat. There we go. Thank you, lag. Fantastic. We appreciate it so much. This is the big downside of being a phantom and walking through walls all the time. Because I could just biff it at any moment. I could just fall down a giant gap, and I just gotta hope that I don't. Supposed to be one. Supposed to be a little dungeon nearby. Unless I've just managed to find my way back. Where? Where am I? No, this is different. Different. I have no qualms about using... Oh, of course, it's another frickin' Wither Skellies. We don't need Wither Skellies. I wouldn't be annoyed if this did in fact break this. I will happily use this glitch if this has in fact happened. Because it says... Yeah, I can try and break that again. So... No, it didn't break it. Okay, never mind. We already have a Wither Skelly spawner. We don't need another one. I don't need that. Iron backpack. I'm happy with my medium. That's fine. If I need to, we have plenty of iron. I can just make one. Okay. What? Oh, that's just normal biome. Okay. This is the time that I miss being an Elytrian. Why am I on fire? Why am I taking... I don't know. Hi! You want to give me your backpack? Do you have any looties in there? You got any looties? I don't care about that. Okay. That's still too close for it to be useful. I wish walking through the middle of these would be helpful, but it isn't. It's still just as slow. And they are 25, so that's good. I was a little fearful that they were 50. That is the cap for the overworld. I think it's the end that starts at 50 then. Let's try random thing and then go back to searching for a dungeon. Another dungeon. Search. Still that one over there. So we're gonna ignore that and keep running in a direction. The direction itself does not matter as long as we get far away from that. And stay somewhat safe while we do. I'm not too worried about going farther away, aside from maybe lagging out Penguin a little bit. Is that... Alright, we're looting a second one. Back in the fucking building. Part 2. Electric Boogaloo. let's get down here. Let's just go down this. Yep. 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 Okay, where's the center? You can sometimes kind of tell from this. Is that a bastion over there? Oh, hey, I found the gauntlet. It has quite a few of these arenas spawn across the world, but... This is the Gauntlets arena. If I look over here, it doesn't spawn in until you do this, but... What? So this got rid of something. A lot of somethings. Probably part of the Nether Fortress. But if you break that, it spawns the Gauntlet. I hate him. So preferably, we get the Staff of Fuck You. Again, before I deal with that. Preferably. AKA, we get a Staff of Explosion 30. That is the ideal answer to this. Where is this center building? I don't think I actually finished my I forgot we had that. I don't think I actually finished my sentence earlier. I will happily use the free cam as much as possible if it cuts and saves on stream time. Because I only stream for relatively small amounts of times compared to what you'd expect. Which allows me to stream way more often. That's fair. I think it doesn't help that most of the streamers I know or have watched stream ridiculously long hours because that's just about all they do. But those are mostly full-time streamers. And Misty's on the other end where she just streams a lot.
I feel like she streams very... I don't know. I might not just get her notifications, to be fair.
No, she streams very often. I wake up 7 a.m. my time, and she starts stream usually a little bit after I wake up.
So then, yeah, probably just I end up not getting her notifications, or just be like...
Yeah.
Right outside of, like, my time zone.
I think you're both the same time zone, actually. It should be about 9 a.m. your time.
Oh, so when I'm at
Because I'm pretty sure both of y'all are just 2 hours ahead of me.
Okay, so my time just whenever I'm at school and don't have internet access, aka the walls are
apparently.
I can't. I physically can't.
There's like 3 skellies here. Okay, we're good. We're fine. We're fine. Also, I found another fortress. I just perhaps, mayhaps, have also found the gauntlet. Hydrate? Yes, 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 Wolfie, I will hydrate. We will take big sip of tea. Cool. But yeah, I found the gauntlet.
What's the gauntlet?
It's one of the bosses of mass destruction, and I hate him. So we're not. So we're not dealing with him until I get the Staff of Fuck You.
Yippee.
Because he is annoying as hell. He covers the only spot where you can actually hurt him, which is his eyeball. I've already gone down this path, so I've looted all of this.
Just
now we should be far enough.
Insanely good sniping on him. Boom. What is the,
yes. He opens and like you can hit his eye for a few seconds and then he closes it, charges at you, pulls back, causes damage around the arena, and then it restarts the round.
What is the table thing called?
Table thing? There's a lot of tables.
The thing that uses... I could probably just abuse...
The tool leveling table?
Yeah, thank you.
Yes. And yes, I will stretch. Need to turn off phantom mode so I'm not wasting that.
Ooh, wait,
make sure feet are forward and facing because that does deeply affect this. We can have a big stretch.
Tisby, what is rose gold used for?
And then do a full lane.
Anything gold can be used for. A village tracker.
Gold can be used for quite a lot. What do you need it for?
Rose gold.
Rose gold is purely a...
wedding ring.
Minecraft comes alive item for jewelry and gifts.
Yeah, but
It is not useful for
it can
anything
be
else.
used- It can be used in place of gold, but the only way to get it is by using gold. So there's no real point, unless I feel like
Yeah.
probably.
It's probably if you just have an excess of it, then you can use it for that. If you overcrafted
Oh,
for something.
If you have an excess of raw gold and just a raw copper, you can get one more gold out of
Oh, it's
your
below.
gold. So it's not. It's not
Wait,
like
how many?
insane.
Oh, there's a
useful,
few of these. Okay,
but
hold
it's
on.
like-
Are any of you... You're another Wither Skelly. Striders! I found level 29 Striders. There's a double over here, though. What are you guys?
Okay, are you
Blazes...
wait for anything?
Not right now, no. I finished up using that.
Okay.
I am back from lurking.
Well, I'm
Hello,
asking
Wilthy.
because
Welcome
are
back.
you like planning on using it for anything?
I already used it. What I needed, I used.
Because I'm just gonna put it into the tool leveling table.
I'm breaking in Summon Vex again. We don't care about these. What we care about... There's my hammer.
Vino.
Is we're gonna make a Strider spawner.
Hour 7. Let's go.
I don't need this anymore. I don't know why I keep doing Phantom mode when I don't need to. Just gotta make sure I actually do this right.
Okay. Wither Skull 2. I am curious how this works. I need to go outside for this. Is there a
Probably
way
just
to
more
get
powerful.
outside? Well, I don't know if it shoots more Wither Skulls or just more powerful Wither Skull. More powerful? Question mark?
Do they? Does this?
I have no reference material.
No.
I'm just gonna presume more powerful, but probably not. We still have no stairs up to the front door.
Because you said you just needed a platform to land on.
That is fair. It looks weird when I'm walking back and I'm like, what's
There's
that?
some stairs downstairs. Jeez, frickin'.
I'm curious.
This is why I'm doing a passive mob. I accidentally hit a zombie piglin, and I killed it, but it did get one hit in before it died, and it took half of my health. I have 50 health. So, fair to say, we are doing the... there's a reason we're doing passive mobs. And not doing the Wither Skelly spawner instead. If you want to go die a bunch and lose all of your XP to it, fine by me, but I am not dealing with that.
I don't care. Is there any use for leather we have?
Leather makes backpacks. I always keep a little bit on me.
Okay, like to the point we need 3.5 stacks of leather.
The 3.5 stacks of leather is a problem and not the 5 or 6 of iron?
No, I'm asking because we have 3.5 stacks of rotten flesh that can be turned into leather, and that's the only other.
Okay, then probably, yeah, just go for that.
Okay, because I was just going to put it into the tool leveling table.
You were asking that if we had use for 3 stacks of leather, not that we have rotten flesh, what do we do with it?
Well, that was the only other use case for rotten flesh, so
I have no idea that you're talking about rotten flesh, though.
That's why I just asked about leather, because that's the only other use for rotten flesh besides for just chowing down.
But that doesn't tell me anything you're actually asking.
I guess. What does True Edge do?
I guess more damage or something along the... I think it does extra damage on top. Kind of similar to like a sharpness or power would. If you want to look up the enchantment, I think it's called Dragon Enchantments in the mod pack. Oh, evil gravel.
Okay.
Get out of my face.
Honest
Thank you for the
question,
XP,
should
but
I
get
go
out of my
back to
face.
the iron to just put it into the tool leveling?
Yes, that would actually be useful use of it.
Well, it's only 15 when a sap weighs 10.
What are you asking at this point?
Well, I've asked.
'Cause
I don't actually.
Because the 15 is going to be far more useful than the 10.
That is fair. And our
With
blocks
15 bigger than 10, it's going to be more useful. Yes, we have a lot of saplings, but you can also just do both. You do have the option for both here. Then do that, and you can do both. It doesn't have to be a ore case. Oh, shiny! I forgot. Shiny striders. Sometimes they're blue.
God, it's like Pokemon.
Yeah.
Gotta catch them all.
Gotta kill them all.
What? The poor Strider.
We are in this mod pack. The entire reason I'm making this is for XP. What did you think the punchline was going to be?
I know, I'm...
Let me jump. Thank you.
Okay, so how much iron should we keep? Because I presume...
Just use it!
All of it?
Yes, if we need more, we can get more. That is the game. That is how this works.
But I'll just put all of our valuables into it. The silence is deafening.
Because brain's working overtime because I don't have enough storage for the things I need to do. Oh, there's a bunch of wither skellies in here. Hey, one of you has a backpack and you didn't drop it. Of course you didn't.
Yeah, I have sharpness.
Hey, plastic drinking head.
I should see 5. I have just sort of stop at like vanilla for right now.
Yo, all the frickin' striders that are spawning while I'm making this farm! That are now wandering about the place. Hey, I got the last Wither Skelly skull, by the way.
Oh, nice. So we can fight the wither.
Boop, boop, boop. Oh, there is one good thing out of Striders. They drop string.
Oh, yeah. Okay, what is the Wither Star used for? Inception upgrade, everlasting upgrade.
3, 4, 1,
Beacon.
2.
Staff of Life.
3.
Cool.
And place that there, and then 1, 2, 3. Boop, boop.
I don't know how exploity I'm allowed to get. Am I allowed to get at exploity?
What do you mean by exploity? Because if you're talking like T&D T dupers, no. If you're talking trying to get power 50, that is the mod pack. That is the point.
I mean, like, duping in general.
I'd say no, just because the mod pack's already as overpowered as it is. We don't need to be duping stuff when it's not really necessary, and also there are so many other ways to go about the exact same thing if you're just thinking about duping items to make the tool leveling easier. That's what the mining is for. And it works just as well, probably faster.
I wasn't even thinking the tool leveling thing, I was just thinking duping in general.
It is just not necessary with this overpowered mod pack. We do not need to be duping stuff.
But with sophisticated backpacks, there is a way. I don't know exactly how this be. Like, I dive into research for like an hour or so, and then half-ass figure it out.
It's not necessary.
There is a way to dupe with the what is it? The backpacks.
Take this. And then boop. Wait, pop. I need this one. Pop.
Ooh, oh, gold adds 40.
Yeah.
I should do a pigman farm, because then we could also just funnel all of that into another plastic, or not plastic tool.
If you want to come out and set up one, be my guest, but it's far easier literally just while you're netherite mining to throw all the netherrack that's going to despawn anyway into the tool leveling table. You can get up to level 30 by purely throwing netherrack in the table. Or level 29. Level 30, you have to add at least one non-normal block item in order to reach that. But otherwise, you can just straight up hit level 30 by itself.
What would count as a non-normal block item?
Normal blocks will only give 10 worth, so you'd have to throw in like a piece of coal, iron, emerald, something to that degree.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So I'll just sort of keep like not a stack, but I'll really just keep 10 gold blocks in my backpack then.
Oop.
And I'm gonna go netherite mining.
While you're netherite mining, do you just want to like try and head out towards me? I am -4, 5, 8, and -4, 7, 2. It's too many striders in my face.
Try to think what all I will need. I'm taking this before.
Oh, I'm level 56. Let me handle that. I really don't need all these strider hits.
Touch axe real quick. Yes, I probably do.
Oh, by the way, I need to remember this right here, right now, and I'm gonna say this out loud, so I'm editing. I don't let myself forget this. We are not allowed to turn the Wither Star, the Nether Star from the Wither boss, into a beacon. We need it in order to summon the Inferno. So we are not allowed to turn it into it. I'm not dealing with Wither a second time.
Okay, so we're not allowed to use anything to do with that. Got it.
We're no beacons. I made this mistake the last time I did this mod pack. I'm like, oh, I'm gonna do a beacon, cause cool thing. I beat the Wither. And then I went to fight the Inferno and I remembered, oh, right. Shouldn't have done that.
Okay. We'll keep in mind.
No kits. No beacons. Okay. Oh no, where am I gonna find some lava?
I have no idea.
Hello, random block of lava in the middle of nowhere. Oh. Hello, second random block of lava in the middle of nowhere. I just walked right into my own lava. Okay, place that. Good. Good. It's still burning. I need you to please actually filter into those other blocks. All the other blocks. There's another block for you to get to still. What are you... You realize you could flow that way? No, no, you do not. Okay, so I need to do that for you to flow that way. Okay. And now we can do that. Eat real quick.
Oh,
Nummy, nummy, nummy.
I guess that works out.
There we go. Shiny! He's a cyan one.
Packing up our entire enchantment setup because I have.
Ah, this is perfect. This is even better than I made it last time. Oh, it couldn't be better. Strider. Strider. Beautiful. Pop that up.
Yeah, this is smart.
Now I just need to slowly get you out here.
Me?
Yeah, to the Strider spawner, because I'm decently far out. I almost wonder if it'd be easier for you to get out here via a portal instead of trying to traverse the Nether. Because they're very different annoying things. Because so far the Nether's been very basalt heavy. That's why I'm concerned. Basalt and toxic heavy.
It's all just... If I get down low enough, it's all just netherrack. And since I'm
That's
gonna be
fair.
netherite mining, should be fine.
I should put a prevention against that. That'd be smart.
Okay, I should be fine.
smart.
I'm taking our 3 god apples with me because I know my dumbass will end up having to use one.
Yeah,
of them because I
absolutely take them.
I'd fall in lava or something. That didn't work last time I tried that.
Hmm?
So you know how in vanilla Minecraft, if you throw a pearl through a portal, it would send you through the portal and not the just pass through the portal and hit the something behind it. The Origins pearl doesn't work that way.
Oh. Well.
So that's how I died I died that way before. You said... What'd you say your chords were?
I put it in the chat. The actual Minecraft chat.
Do you mind saying it out loud so I can make a waypoint to you so I know which way to dig?
Negative 458. Negative 472. I am at Y32.
Okay.
Wonder how many of these can I play?
That way.
Can y'all not block the way?
I might actually have a better time traversing the nether than you thought because I have a pearl.
That is true. I literally need to craft a bow just so I can deal with the stupid striders that block the way.
I have a power 7 bow.
I literally just need a long-range projectile that I don't immediately lose. I still have the trident. I just need a long-range projectile that I don't immediately lose.
I am trying to debate the best way to get past this.
Oh, we probably have arrows. I love warpstones. The arrows, I'll take it. It's enough to handle the striders. You know, this would probably be better. Let me just do that.
So what were you thinking for Season 3's mod pack? Like, obviously more adventure than just, hey, let's go do a trial chamber. Because you had, like, specifically said that.
Yeah. I'll look into it when I look into it. I'd rather not, like, say any concrete things and then have to double back on it later. I'd rather look into it at the time and work through it as we go.
When you get to it.
Yeah. Otherwise, it's going to be overwhelming my brain and I'm not going to be thinking about the things I need to be thinking about.
Tis be fair.
Shiny! Plunk, plunk, plunk.
Oh, do you still have that texture pack that makes them look weird?
You mean the grays?
I
The
have no
fresh
idea
mob
what the
overhaul?
texture pack was called. Where they looked like the triangles.
Kinda, yeah. It's
Oh, did you
Grace
see
Mob
that
Overhaul.
texture pack?
Yeah, I did see
You
the one you sent.
texture pack I messaged you?
Yeah.
Okay. You didn't say anything, so I was like...
I gave a thumbs up
maybe
to
I
it today.
haven't got it back yet. I didn't notice it.
Probably because I immediately
But I
texted
figured-
you afterwards the, if you wanted to stream tonight.
That tis be fair.
Slowly had these. It's another freaking parent blocking the way. For some reason, the Striders that have a baby on top just love to be annoying and be stuck directly in the way. And it blocks off all the other Striders. Okay, I'm wasting the trident for this. There it goes. And I don't think it helped much. It's not really a better way. I have the Wither Roses, so we could make this farm automatic, but that's not going to help with the current problem that exists.
What exactly is the problem? Because I don't know.
Striders that have a baby on top for some reason love to just not follow the flow of the lava, so they never actually make it down far enough, and they block off everything else. I have one sitting directly in the center underneath the spawner that keeps blocking the flow of traffic, and is the exact same one this entire time. He still is yet to die. And because they're freaking level 29, he's still sitting at 34 health. I got him halfway down, but I don't have any more arrows.
No, I have this for a reason.
This is when I just grab some blocks and take care of the problem myself.
Digga.
Out of here. Thank you.
I have stuff.
Taking up valuable room for the farm. Thank you. Fantastic. Now if all of you could come down here, that'd be great. You all are very, very slow. I feel like this would almost be better. Hold on. And then I may actually be able to reach.
Bastion? Is that a bash? Oh, this is the gauntlet. Yeah, because this is too big to be Bastion. Yes, bugged lava.
I love it. Can I reach that? There we go.
There's packs. Oh, so fun. Yeah,
Honestly, I don't even think we need the lava. It just helps a little bit.
Okay, I'm right here apparently.
Oh, hi! Welcome to the Strider farm.
Weirdly fast. Ooh, Battle chanting. Pink.
Oh, I need a looter at some point. That would be a good idea.
Yeah. Do you... This Goofy farm. Oh.
Striders are goofy. And there I go, because I happened to touch just a tiny bit of it.
It's 1 pixel right there.
Yep. Just do that. Because all that matters, as long as you can mostly reach around here, because some of the striders like to get stuck in the middle, then you'll be fine. I'm gonna clear out. There's another spawner.
Does XP
just over
burn?
here. Shouldn't.
I'm thinking about doing a emerald crossbow with piercing so I can reclaim the arrows.
Mm.
And like something that makes it do like a
Or perhaps we set up a... Well, I'd have to set it up for you unless you figure out the village problem of Fletcher. Or perhaps I could drag a villager back to you.
We could do that.
Just want a little bit of XP so I'm not all the way down at 6. Also, I was rambling an idea to Plush and Punky. So, Mew, right? He's a Skulkback thing. And we're joking about, oh yeah, Mew's small. But I also like the idea. I thought it would be really funny, like, oh, every time he gets XP, he just grows bigger. And so now I'm making it canonical that when Mew's at level 0 XP, he's the size of a bat, and when he's at 100 XP, he's the size of a warden. Yes, I do.
I feel like something I should invest in is a magnet upgrade. If we're, do we care about the string?
No. If you need string, I have 3 stacks in my inventory.
Yeah, it's not anything important. Where would you like an enchantment table? Here.
You're welcome to put one wherever. Again, we play this very differently. I very rarely actually use an enchantment table in this. Most of the time, I just find my enchantments, and I get what I get. It's not some... Occasionally, I need to go out for something, but most of the time, you don't need a really good enchantment table. If you find level 1 prot enchantments, you can just upgrade them with the tool leveling table. So you can really work with whatever you find.
That's fair. I don't know, I'm playing this more of just like
normal Minecraft,
and then, or not normal, because I gobble up a bunch of loot, and I originally had just been doing that.
Alright, been using that because
it's just
I need to hit the stronghold. Before we go back to the stronghold another time, I want to add looting again. Oh, we're almost at 2 hours. Jeez. I think we should not hit the stronghold this time. I'm gonna try and add looter. I'll add looter immediately after this so I don't forget. Well, and then we could both loot it next time. Oh. Well.
Yeah, any chests we've rendered have already been screwed over by that.
Okay, then I'm hitting the stronghold to try and get another mending book.
Okay.
That is the one downside of both being on the same world and I didn't invest in looter previously. Turned all the wrong ways except for the right one. But I'm not going full chaos, absolutely everything I could possibly need enchanted. I just want a few basics enchanted, so hopefully that'll make more for us to go around. Is one. Quick charge, sharpness. There's my mending. I'll take a sharpness.
I am curious, could you upgrade enchantments on a book?
Yeah. There's another mending. Oh, Windstep's good. Oh, it has fortune. I'm gonna put fortune on first. Because fortune is what really breaks this, because you can get like fortune 500 if you wanted.
Right.
And the #1 way to upgrade it is with copper. Copper absolutely breaks with high fortune. Set my spawn point.
Right.
Just in case. It probably also helps for a lot of these. I know where all the chests are, so you might miss them, and I'm just like, oh, here's the chest, here's the chest, here's the chest.
Right.
Because the only thing that really makes any of this different for me is whatever challenge I give myself. Because most of these are the same all the way through, and I've played... That's a big child. I had a sneeze. Why did I grab freeze breath? I don't need that. Because I've gotten pretty down what kind of build I like playing at this point. Oh, there's another mending.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I like playing the Enderman with a bow, but that's like very much a supporting class.
Hmm.
And not a solo class. And I've only played this, say, with you, so I have to figure out what I want to do for like a main class.
That's fair. It's just occurred to me when I go to invite somebody in like the first screen, I can turn on cheats that way. Because usually this version's BS, and once you start a world, you can't turn on cheats. So I could do that at some point so we could actually fix your character, possibly. Because your character's short, dealing with all that. But if you so wanted, I would happily allow you to change your class. Because you just have to use your origin in general. If you use the origin orb, I have it in creative mode. Orb. Because it's not... Yeah, you can't craft it. It's orb of origin. I would happily give you an orb of origin if you realized you really like this other class way more, and it'd let you have more fun with it. I kind of play this as rule of cool, honestly, when it comes to how I deal with the playthrough and editing recording of it. It's always going to be rule of cool. Whatever works best for the fitting situation.
Well, there is a mod for Origins that allows you to craft the Orb of Origin, and I think it's a fairly cheap recipe.
I will look in... Let me actually... Instead of just saying, oh, I'm going to look into that, let me actually write this down. Because I say that all the time, and then I never do.
Yeah, because I feel like we've talked about Luda before, and then, like, it just had...
Because I immediately forgot afterward. I think it was one of the early ones we did.
I think
my brain went...
the first...
Orb of Origin.
That poor pig man.
Recipe. Oh yeah, they really get the short end of the stick.
Right.
There is one good side about me using this specific stronghold. Is... Oh, hi, Enderpearl. Words.
Ooh, that's not good. It's fine.
The stronghold is so large that you tend to find a lot of other structures attached to it. Where's... I saw you. Where are you? I will find you. Hey, I have Ender! You can find quite a few of those, actually. I don't need any of that. I'm just after... You the Mimic? You the Mimic? Who's the Mimic? You're the Mimic! Get bonked. Oh! How fitting. Superstitious hat applies extra level of looting to killed enemies. I now have a giant Lucky Charms hat. 2 diamond, I'll take 2 diamond. I don't have a lot of diamond. Hello, Billy Bob. How are you? Mood. Tempted to grab a little piece of candy after the stream. But then I kinda probably want to head to bed soon after, so that might not be the best idea. Or not medicated it might be. I don't know. I don't know how sugar affects me anymore. I'm still kind of going off of... One time I had a dum-dum, just normal old lollipop late into the night. And I just didn't sleep that night at all. Physically couldn't. So I'm still kind of working. Is this a staff? No, good. I found a venomous enchantment.
Ooh, yay, Venomous. That's what I've been using.
Oh, hell yeah. I got Devour on my pants and now True Edge and Mending on one of my claws.
I don't know what Devour does.
It's like a low-key Mending, if I remember right.
Ew. Okay. Oh, hi.
No.
So I've kind of prettified the spawner like extra area.
Alright. I'm breaking a power, that's worth it. Oh good, I do have an extra backpack. Just throw all of these in here. Actually, hold on. Mending. Mending.
Come here.
Mending. Mending.
48.
Mending. My venomous. Okay. So far I found 5 mending books. Was there? No, there isn't a secret thing in the middle of that. I wish there was, but there is not. Where did I come from? Where did I go? Ah, that's... yeah, okay, over here.
Got an eye Joe.
Yeah. I don't know if Uncle Joe, but I do got an Aunt Joe.
It's a Cotton Eye Joe,
power.
but yeah, that works. Eevee. What the fuck is Instep?
Wind step? Faster sprint.
Instep.
I don't know what instep is.
And then
Couldn't tell you.
it's something for a crossbow, and then water aspect.
I think water aspect hurts the water mobs more. Something to that degree.
It might be like splashing like water onto like an Enderman or blaze.
23 hours left on the go. I will do my best to stream tomorrow, Billy Bob. Let me do Penguin a favor. I'm gonna get myself in a little hole here. Pop myself in a hole. And let me give you some definitive answers on what the hell that does. Something
The
that
only
was
thing I
cool.
can think of is it's probably like my passive for my origin.
Mm.
Or not passive, but my active ability. You know?
Dragon enchantments. Bonus water damage, especially effective against Enderman. So yeah.
Okay, so what I was
So it's the same as fire, but water. True Ed's pierce through enchantments, then magic, then armor. So that's what it does. So True Edge really good. It's like piercing.
Okay.
Axe has Berserk, gain more damage the lower health you have. Devour,
That seems
upon
like
killing an
pretty nice.
enemy, consume their HP to heal your items. So, kind of like Mending, but not quite. You can get Frost Heart for your chest plate, and it slows down and debilitates enemies who attack you.
Triple.
There's also Eternal, consume food and 200 durability upon taking lethal damage.
Come here, you dagnabbit striders. They're just like out of reach because apparently this diamond halberd has like a knockback effect.
There's 2 bow enchantments you may like. There is Homing, that tracks enemies,
Which I
and
have.
Detonate, which causes an explosion where the bow lands. Wind step, game speed when sprinting, and Walker has a chance to teleport to avoid incoming projectile attacks. And
What is
oh yeah, there's Aftershock, create an explosion upon hitting an enemy. I've dealt with that before. It's fun.
You said wind step is the thing or end step?
End step does that. I forgot. Okay, I saw this earlier. I thought it was a staff enchantment. Chain lightning, exactly as cool as it sounds. Enemies in a group get hit by arcs of electricity.
What is that for?
It's for all weapons. I saw one earlier, but I didn't grab it. I hope I remember exactly where I saw it. Was it you?
I didn't hear what you said. It did.
Wind step is extra speed when sprinting. End step, you teleport out of the way of projectiles.
How does that work?
You just teleport. You just teleport like an Enderman would. Heals. Oh, I missed a mending. I've dealt with it before. That's a boots enchantment.
Then why the fuck can I get it on my crossbow?
Maybe they just didn't do it correctly? I don't know what to tell you.
I'm tempted to just send it and try putting it on there and see what it does.
You're welcome to try. I don't remember where the chain lightning was. Chain lightning, create water, wind step. I'll take another wind step. Stuck in a cobweb. Okay. Was it you? No. That's nothing.
Where's our lapis lazuli?
Lapis lazuli.
Lapis lazuli.
Oh, there's a mimic. Mimic boy. Mimic. Where? One whom's to do? What?
What did you name? Oh, it's literally just named Strider.
Yeah. Oh, amethyst.
That's on me for being blind.
Where? Oh, there you. Why are you hiding all by yourself? This poor boy.
Maybe he wants to be
Where can move freely in water. It didn't even have like a player base. Player base might have been cut off by the amethyst. I don't know. It was just a mimic sitting on the edge of an amethyst.
What does Endwalker do again?
I think that's the projectile one. Hold on. Endwalker. That is not a dragon's enchantment. Oh, no, it is. Yeah, that is the projectile one. Out of the way of projectiles.
So then what's instead?
Good question. I shall look.
Because that's the one that I was asking about, not the projectile.
Teleport to where your bow lands.
Okay, so my entire fucking origin is just useless if I went for that.
Kinda, yeah.
Literally is. What do you mean, kinda?
Well, it probably requires an arrow.
But I feel like arrows are just so cheap, it wouldn't even matter.
That's fair. Alright, I'm not getting that chain lightning. Whatever. Where? What? Oh, that way. Well. Was it this room that had the thing that I want? Was this the room that had the chain lightning and I just absolutely avoided it? No, I haven't gone. Critical Thunder. I know that one. Hold on. I know it. I'm pretty sure. More damage on critical hits.
Yeah, I'm going for critical thunder 3.
And thankfully, because of the combined text leveling and the XP farms and how all this mod pack works, at least getting these enchantments isn't too annoying. Or like adding them.
explosion for the staffs.
Yes, normal, regular, old explosion is staffs.
Yeah, so that's the one that made the staff a fuck you, yeah?
Yeah. That is what I require for the staff of fuck you. Fantastic.
I got you,
Next time, I'm just gonna be netherite mining, and we're just gonna make the staff of fuck you again.
Yep.
Slowly get up here.
Ah, yes, depth strider for someone who can't touch water. Or cure illness.
That's a staff
Cure
one.
illness. Yeah. Or a heal. You know what? Bro, lightning circle.
That's an invisible Enderman over there. Oh, nope, he just didn't spawn in yet. Okay.
Garden growth. What does garden growth do?
I have no idea. I just assume it makes plants grow fast.
I'm going to take that.
Weather alteration. Fireball! Down, 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 down.
Aftershock power. Aftershock sounds interesting.
Hold on, I recognize that. Why do I recognize? Create an explosion upon hitting an enemy. I will warn you, it gets annoying. It gets very annoying because you hear you don't really see the explosions, but you certainly hear them all the time. So it's fun.
You, like, get rid of the trident? Like, do you still have the trident, or is the trident
No.
just fucking gone?
No, I hit it at the strider and it bounced into the lava. It is gone.
So it's gone. Oh, I just got loyalty 3, whatever the fuck that means.
The base enchantment from Minecraft?
Yeah, it can go above, like, 1.
It means it comes back to you like a boomerang. It is a normal Minecraft enchantment
Yes,
that is
but,
not
like,
added by it.
I didn't know loyalty went above 1.
Yes, it does. Ah, Mimic. What you got? Villager hat. AKA Luffy hat. Do you want a villager hat?
Nope.
Okay.
Because I'm kind of remember avoiding villages.
I don't know if you're gonna solve that problem. It is worth the ask.
Probably not.
And I don't know how, why, what, when, where that would cause the problem. You were fine in the village, like, the first couple days, too, which is interesting. The first few streams were fine.
Yeah,
but...
so I have no idea what it is. It might have just been a one-time fluke.
No, you had it happen a second time at the other village. Closer to our base.
Well, it's happened multiple times. It's just, I think it might have been like a one-off.
A fluke that it didn't. Or that it was just a random glitch, you mean?
Yeah, like it was just that day it just was doing that. Like that's been a case before.
It's worth a test. I got a test real quick before we end off for the night. Where is this Mimic? Oh, there he is.
Yeah, I'd rather find out just another time randomly.
What?
Okay,
Oh,
so
up here, okay.
Fortune is the goofy one. Yeah.
Yes, you want to focus on Fortune.
Okay.
Fortune is absolutely the first thing you want to upgrade, because aside from doing, like, netherite mining, the other fastest way to get your things upgraded is copper. Just straight up copper. Go around, mine copper. If you want to, you can smelt it. It's a little bit better if you do. But honestly, just go around and mine copper and throw it right back into the tool enchantment table.
Once I get enough fortune.
Surprisingly, it don't really take a lot to make it overpowered. Even just get it to Fortune 5 and it starts getting really good.
Mm.
Shh. Okay. There's 2 mimics near me. I want to hit both of these, but then I am ready to end off for the night, if you are.
Yeah.
Wait for a second. I already have those. Do you want some steadfast spikes?
I have no idea what that would do, but sure.
It decreases knockback. I also got a Scarf of Invisibility.
I might change class, but I have to mess around for a little bit, but yeah.
Wait, bonk home?
This is like a next time thing, not like a today.
Yeah. No worries. And then we
So I do
can
have to
deal with
mess
this more
around
next
and
time.
figure out which one I would like. Yep.
Alright.
Okay, I have Fortune 5, by the way.
Nice. Just tomorrow, next time, we're just gonna start getting overpowered as hell.
Yeah, I think, yeah, next time we do this is gonna be just Overpower City.
Absolutely. I think that'll be it then. Are you ready for me to close off the world?
Oh, whoa, yeah.
You good?
That's insane.
Are you just realizing how overpowered Fortune 5 is?
Yeah, the Netherite gold things, I'm mined like a couple. I have like 5.
Yeah. That's why I said focus on Fortune first. It powers literally everything else.
And I'm just upgrading Fortune.
I think I should just do like a slight joke, non-jokey video of like how to play Amalgamation. And just be like, here's what you need to do to be overpowered. Okay? Okay. Have fun. Alright, you ready?
Okay, now I have Fortune 7, but yeah, I'm ready.
Alright. Oh. It's why I love this mod pack. It's very easy to be overpowered as hell.
Yeah, once you finally get like some sort of infrastructure, it's just snowballing at this point.
Yeah. It's hard to get started, but it's a fun challenge once you get there and you get into the groove of it. It's very annoying picking it up, but once you realize, oh, this is what's going on, then you go, and you're off. You're gone.
Okay, bye-byes.
Bye-bye. Alright. So that'll be it. I'm a few minutes over, but that's fine. That's A-okay. I will try and stream tomorrow night, so Billy Bob can throw in the last 2k needed for hardcore Amalgamation. Honestly, if Billy Bob, if you're able to make it as soon as possible to that stream, then we can just do hardcore Amalgamation tomorrow and have fun with that. I would absolutely be down to make that the stream. I'm going to see, do we have anybody to raid today? No, we do not. So that'll be it. I don't know why I'm trying to move OBS to the other screen. I don't need to. That'll be it. As per normal, the Discord has all of my live notifications. That's where they get thrown. This will go up on the VOD channel next Sunday, which will be March 15th. We're a little behind on videos, but that's because tomorrow is going to be a side video, a second channel video. There will be a notification in the Discord as well. Discord gets basically all the notifications, except for Tumblr and Blue Sky. The second channel video tomorrow is going to be some old clips that I reacted to. This is a big supercut. This happened in January. I finally got around to editing it. And so that'll be up and ready to go tomorrow. And then, of course, there's the main channel for all the YouTube videos. I posted one this Sunday. If you watch it, have fun. I'm not all super proud of it. I tried something new. It has a 1 view in the past several days. I think that's telling. So I just need to find my groove of editing. And then I think that's just about everything. Tumblr and Blue Sky have a bunch of little screenshots for me doing various things, either from whatever projects we're working on, or whatever build I have posted over on Ko-fi. Ko-fi's been getting a lot of free builds lately. There have been a bunch of starter bases I've been making, and then there's also some bigger survival bases that you can buy. But that'll be it. Thank you all for joining me. I'll see you